Hit Yellowstone spin-off 1883 roared onto our screens last winter to the delight of fans, and makers of the critically acclaimed show have since revealed they are planning a sequel of sorts, which will be called 1932, taking place around 50 years later. But what can we binge in the meantime? Today, we're talking about shows like 1883 to watch for more Wild West action, so stay right where you are. First up, it's Billy the Kid. As the name suggests, this one depicts the life and times of one William H. Bonney, better known as the Maverick, Billy the Kid. Toned down for younger viewers, the show details his rise to infamy, with the main character being portrayed by Englishman Tom Blythe. A highly romanticized version of Mr. Kid's life, it shows how he came to be the outlaw we know him as, and explains how being orphaned as a child affected him. The show is almost the exact same time period as 1883, which has drawn instant comparisons to the Taylor Sheridan Show. It details Billy and his plans of putting down roots, and also features similar, long-winded wagon trips, just like 1883, which was, of course, an integral part of the show. Michael Hurst, who is in charge of the hit Netflix show Vikings, is at the helm for this one, which should serve fans of the period drama well. Will you be giving Billy the Kid a whirl? Let us know below. We're talking Wagon Train now. Stay tuned. Sticking with the theme of wagons and, well, wagons, Wagon Trail tells the story of trail boss Seth Adams and the travelers he is escorting to California from Missouri, in a similar way to Shea Brennan in escorting the German immigrants to Oregon. Wagon Trail differs slightly by dedicating each episode of the show to a member of the traveling party, going into their motivations for traveling way out west. And the comparisons to 1883 don't stop there. Adams is a former Union soldier who, similar to Brennan, is tough but fair. The two characters are so similar that we would be willing to bet good money that Sheridan has based some parts of Brennan's character on Adams. He is also willing to do just about anything to make sure his party gets safely to their destination, and he doesn't exactly care if he ruffles a few feathers along the way. And there are plenty of episodes to get stuck into with this one, with close to 300 over 8 seasons for fans of 1883 to explore whilst we wait for 1932. And look out for a guest appearance from a future US president along the way. Ronald Reagan appeared in this one just before he began his career in politics. Check it out! Next up, we have Lonesome Dove. I mean, it would be criminal to not include the show that Taylor Sheridan himself had cited as a huge influence on 1883. This one has it all. An epic 4-part show which also features a trip from Texas to Montana, just like James Dutton and Brennan's Immigrants. However, this is a slightly different trip as it features a cattle drive rather than immigrants. 1883 is so indebted to this one that it would be difficult to imagine the show being made if there was no Lonesome Dove. Featuring Tommy Lee Jones and Robert Duvall, two of the best actors of their eras, Lonesome Dove was pretty much the pinnacle of 80s TV and kind of reimagined the Western genre. It was also a big hit ratings-wise, and whilst it doesn't feature anywhere near the same amount of bloody violence and foul language that 1883 threw about so nonchalantly, it is an excellent depiction of what life would have really been like back in the Old West. Are you guys going to check this one out? Hatfields and McCoys is coming through now. Another Western drama with Kevin Costner? Sign us up. Costner actually won an Emmy for his role as William Hatfield, but be warned, there's not much of it. The show only ran across 3 episodes, at around 2 hours each, and detailed the infamous feud between the Hatfield and McCoy families. The show aired 10 years back, and there are obvious comparisons to Yellowstone, as Costner takes on the role of the Hatfield patriarch, who uses his influence and money to disrupt the lives of his family's enemies, the McCoys, who are headed up by Bill Paxton. Tom Berenger is also involved in this one, playing Hatfield's uncle, who was credited with initiating the feud thanks to a cold-blooded murder of a McCoy family member. And like 1883, it is bloody and violent, so you should really check it out. What are you waiting for? Next up, it's Hell on Wheels. Stay with us. Hell on Wheels is somewhere between 1883 and Deadwood. More on that in a second. Violence is rife, and if you're on the more politically correct end of the societal spectrum, you might want to give this one a miss. However, you would be missing out on some truly great TV. Set just after the Civil War, we follow the goings-on surrounding the building of the Transcontinental Railroad, as well as Cullen Bohannon and his quest for revenge on the men who murdered his family. He takes a job on the railroad, alongside his right-hand man, played by American rapper Common, and must navigate his way through the lawless community and the shady characters that come along with it. Similar to 1883, but not as well written, this one runs across 5 seasons, and is a solid alternative to Taylor Sheridan's shows whilst we wait for the next offering. We have Deadwood next, stick around. Many people's greater ever Western series, this This one only ran for 3 seasons, but they were quite literally fantastic. Having wrapped in 2006, fans were treated to a long-awaited movie in 2019 to tie up the show's loose ends. Some of the best dialogue and insults you will ever hear, our anti-hero, Al Swearingen, is sweary by name and by nature. It explored how a society was built and policed back in the Old West, and how it was eventually integrated into a more modern, forward-thinking America. Timothy Oliphant and Ian McShane complement each other extremely well, and whilst it can be pretty tough going in parts, it is worth it as the characters and writing are sublime. Anyone who loves westerns in 1883 will almost certainly have heard of and watched Deadwood already. But if you haven't, what on earth are you waiting for? Will you guys be giving this one a go? You really should. Be honest. Next up, it's Godless. When 1883 first dropped, direct comparisons were instantly made between Elsa and, to a lesser extent, Margaret and the women who feature in Godless. And not only does this one feature tough female characters, it is also set just a year after 1883 and follows Roy Good, an outlaw who is on the run from his former criminal mentor and father figure, Frank Griffin. Roy rejected Griffin and his particular way of life and absconded to La Belle. However, the town is mostly populated by women after most of its male residents met a grisly end in a grim-sounding mining accident. The women take him in, of course, as men are pretty hard to come by, and decide to guide Roy through the perils of life in their town, as well as the pursuing Griffin gang. Jack O'Connell and Jeff Bridges star in this limited series, as well as Michelle Dockery, Merritt Weaver, and Tantu Cardinal, who play the strong, independent women who don't need no men, sorry. And the show also did pretty well at the Emmys too, with both Bridges and Weaver bagging awards. Have you seen this one? Let us know what you thought below. And finally, we're talking Warrior. Don't go anywhere. Slightly different to the traditional Western, as it features an Asian lead, which would have been unheard of in some of the earlier shows on this list, but this one is a thrill-a-minute ride, which 1883 fans and fans of action shows in general should really love. The show is actually based on an idea by the late martial arts legend Bruce Lee and incorporates aspects of crime, violence, and politics that make Western shows so watchable. The underlying issue of race, which ran through the West like the Transcontinental Railway from Hell on Wheels, is explored superbly and follows Chinese stuntman Ah Sum as he goes in search of his missing sister. Not a Western in the true sense, but it does take place in the same time frame and shows how gang life was so widespread in the Old West. Andrew Koji's Ah Sum is quickly swept into gang wars, and it is also an interesting look at how Asians were viewed and represented in the Old West. As we know, Chinese immigrants were integral to the building of the railroads, but are often a footnote in Western history. Tragically, there are so far 2 seasons, but a third is on the way. Be sure to check this one out. As always, thanks for dropping by today, and remember to stop in again next time when we will be discussing all sorts of different bits and pieces. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on more great content going forward. Bye guys!